Hey everybody, my name is Kimberly and today I'm going to talk about tipping at all-inclusive resorts. Now, it's a little bit of a hot topic. If you are new to all-inclusive travel, you may have a lot of questions surrounding tipping, and then you probably started some research and you're getting a lot of different approaches and a lot of different answers. And that really is because there's no right or wrong. What you're going to need to do is just to figure out what resonates with you, what works for your budget, what's going to be applicable to the resort you're traveling to, and figure it all out. But my goal is to help you start that process, but just know what I am offering is just one suggestion. Now, if you are a veteran all-inclusive traveler who is watching this video and you think either I tip way too much or I don't tip nearly enough, that is cool. I'm totally okay with you disagreeing with me. I would just ask that you respectfully put your approach down in the comments, just so that other travelers have your perspective to consider as well. So let me touch on that phrase gratuities included, which you may have seen in your booking paperwork, but please let me tell you that this could not be closer to nothing. So if you come from a culture where gratuities truly are included in every service that you receive, you may think, oh, good, check, done, easy, but it's just really not the case. All of this said, with many all-inclusive trips under our belts, we have never felt like we had to tip to get good service. And remember, being gracious, kind, keeping a positive interaction with the staff, really, that's just so incredibly important. And then whatever you can give beyond that will be appreciated. Now, you can tip in US dollars at Caribbean and Mexican resorts, but obviously, if you're coming from another country, it's going to be easier to get the local currency. Now, if you are going to be tipping in US dollars, it is extremely important that the bills that you tip in are in good condition. So this would mean not written on, no stamps, no tears, no ink marks, not overly worn. And so whether you are waiting on your bank to get pesos for you, or you are going to be tipping in US dollars, you do need to plan ahead a little bit. If you're tipping in US dollars, always ask if they have new ones. A lot of times they do. And then also let them know that you are looking for bills in good condition. And they will usually do like a once through for me on like the 5s, 10s, and 20s. And then what I also do is just either get out extra so I can weed through them and deposit anything that is worn out, or I just start going a little bit earlier so that I can take back bills that are not passing my test and exchange them for some additional bills, rinse and repeat until I have what I need. My point here is that it's going to be important to plan ahead for tipping. You're going to need to get the denominations that you want from your bank. You cannot rely on the resort to break those bills down for you. So it just takes a little bit of planning ahead. And if you are a planner, you're my people. And I do have a video on preparing for all-inclusive travel that's going to cover a lot of things that you might want to think about as you're getting ready for your trip. So I'll link that for you down below. I will add that pesos versus US dollars in Mexico, if you're coming from America, is also a huge controversial topic. And I will say, having made, many friends over the years who are, quite frank with me, yeah, pesos are going to pull ahead. However, the general theme is money, and it is appreciated regardless. They do understand that not all of our banks can give us the denominations that we need, and that it can be difficult sometimes for us to take pesos. But again, I'm just going to reiterate the good condition, going back to that. And I actually saw a bartender on our trip to Haven. He was going through his tip money. And as he was, I could see that some of the bills were a hot mess. And so I said to him, hey, do you want me to trade those out for you? Do you want me to give you like new bills instead? And he was so happy. He was like, really? Really? You can use this money? And I was like, yeah, it's no problem. A lot of our money is not in great condition. And so he was thrilled because he said he has no issue spending US dollars in the stores that he shops in. And he said that he can also deposit US dollars easily into the bank, but they will not take them if they are not in good condition. So if you are taking worn money, it's kind of like just throwing it away. So again, I'm just reiterating just one more time, please plan ahead so that you are taking tipping money that's in really good condition if you're taking US dollars. Also, I want to mention that for most staff, you are going to want to tip as you go. You know, if somebody gives you amazing service, and then like they're leaving the next day for their few days off and you never see them again, like that's kind of a bummer. They also often move around. So while someone may be at the, front of the house, as a bartender, they might be a bar back from that point forward. So it's going to be really important that you tip as you go. Same with housekeeping, again, servers, bartenders, everyone really outside of your butler, if your resort or your room comes with that option. And if you do have a butler, I would ask them, hey, when's, we're leaving Saturday, when's your day off? Just to ensure that you get to see them and you get to tip them, before you leave. But other than that, you're really going to want to tip as you go. All right, now for most things, I'm going to give a range, and this is just because the ask is not always the same and the quality of service may not always be the same. Again, you're deciding what's going to work best for you. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's start with your transfer to the resort. Now, if you have a private transfer, that means it's just you. There's no other stops. They're taking you from the airport directly to your resort. And I base that on $10 per 30 minutes. So if it's a 45-minute trip, I'll round up to $20. Now, once you get to your resort, there's going to likely be someone who is going to take you to your room. And along the way, they are going to point out things around the resort. They may give you some tips and tricks about your room. And so for that person, I usually think $2 per bag, and then I may tip a few extra dollars depending on the level of service and the time that they spent with us. Now we start each day with coffee. Sometimes that's in the room, sometimes that's room service. So let me just go ahead and run through room service real quick. Now, a lot of resorts will have a butler box where you can ask your order to be placed. So obviously, if we do that, I'm gonna give a little bit less than if I have them come in and we have them set the entire meal out for us. So it's just really going to depend from maybe a couple of dollars for coffee and pastry delivery in the butler box to maybe, $5, $6, $7 for an entire meal laid out for us. So again, are you gonna have room service every day? Probably not, or maybe you are. So again, this is where things fluctuate a little bit and there's no need for you to write down every single value and think that's what you need per day. After I go through the entire day, I'll explain how I average out our per day tips, how I stay, organized, and even how I think about budgeting for tipping. So stick around for that. All right. If you head out to the coffee shop, a couple of dollars, maybe $2, $3, depending on what we order, if we also get some pastry. But I would say $2 to $3 for a, coffee shop visit for the both of us. Now, when you are going to leave the room for the day, you're heading out to the pool or the beach, you're going to want to leave a tip for your housekeeping and also for your minibar attendant. Now, for housekeeping, I usually tuck this tip under the pillow, anywhere between $5 and $10. It can depend on the room we're staying at. If we're staying in a suite that has like a separate living space, there's a lot more to clean, I may tip a little bit more. If we need, a lot more service in some way, whatever it is, again, it's going to be a range because it's going to kind of depend on the ask. But I would say between $5 and $10 is our usual. And then for the minibar attendant, sometimes we just want a couple more waters, but sometimes we might, need an espresso. I may ask for some extra potato chips because I love them. So again, depends on the ask. I would say $1 or $2 generally for the minibar attendant. All right, it's time to head out for the day. Now, the first person that you may tip is a pool or beach concierge if your resort offers this. So this might be someone who takes you to your loungers, they get your towels set up for you, and usually I'll give them a few dollars at that point, and then it kind of depends on the service throughout the day. Do they come around to clean our sunglasses? Do they refresh our towels? Are they bringing around, snacks or cooling towels? And in that case, I'll usually tip them a little bit more before we leave for the day. When it's time to head to breakfast, we do love a buffet for breakfast because it's quick, we're in, we're out. And I would say that our tip at a buffet, whether it's for breakfast or it's for lunch, is going to be somewhere between $3 and $5. And this again is going to depend on the ask and the service. Do we sit down and just have like some muesli and water and then we're out? Or are we ordering cappuccinos? Are we going up several times and they're clearing plates for us? Are they just going above and beyond in service? We've had some really fantastic servers at buffets over the years. So in that case, it may be a couple of dollars over $5. So again, there's that range, but it just depends on so many factors. Now, if we go to an a la carte for breakfast, that's probably going to be more between $5 and $10. Again, how much are we ordering? How long are we staying? What is the ask? What's the level of service? So you're probably going to hear me on repeat saying that. And again, that is why I wanted to give a range. And then you can decide on what range feels right for you. All right, so this is a good time to talk about drinks throughout the day and the evening. I think a good rule of thumb is $1 per drink. Now, if you are going to be sitting in one place for the entirety of the morning, maybe you start with $5 or $10 because you know you're gonna plan it and there's a lot of Aperol spritzes in your future. Or you can just tip with each round, totally up to you. And usually I will ask that server, are you gonna be with us all day today? And then I'll give that larger tip knowing that they're gonna be checking on me all day. They're gonna be bringing me fresh waters, things like that. So you certainly can work it that way if you would like. And then, sometimes a bartender might just go above and beyond, give you a really beautiful drink with beautiful presentation. They've spent a little more time on it. So that might be when I tip a little bit more. But generally, I think a good rule of thumb is $1 per drink, or again, if it's something really simple, if you're just getting a couple cans of beer, then you might just tip $1 for both, things like that. Again, go back to the ask, go back to the level of service, and let that kind of guide you within the range that you set for yourself. All right, you've had a great day. It's time to go back to the room to freshen up before dinner. Now, we always love turn down service, and that just means if your resort offers it, they come in and they just, maybe replace any towels that you've used during the day. They turn your bed down, they turn the lights, they pull the privacy curtains, and you may not want that. And if you don't, that is totally fine. Just leave your privacy button on and they won't enter the room. And that's true for housekeeping as well. If you, don't want housekeeping service on any particular day, you could keep that red light on or that privacy card on your door. Now, for turn down service, I usually tip between $3 and $5. Once again, did we take a nap and the bed is a mess? Or maybe we didn't, touch the bed and it's totally fine. Do we have a lot of towels? Did I leave a note asking for extra face cloths? Whatever it might be, going back to the ask. So $3 to $5 for turn down is my norm. All right, then it's time for dinner. My range for dinner is usually between $10 and $20. We've had some dinners where servers just have practically made it an event, and in that case, I'm gonna tip on the higher end. And we've had some servers who have done their job. We had got our food, they took our order, and that might be where I'm on, the lower range. And maybe we weren't there long. Maybe we only had, an appetizer and a main, or we just went in for dessert. So again, I'm sorry that it's not more definitive, and that is why this is such a hot topic and why it's really going to depend on you to decide what feels right. So really, I guess I could say that $15 for dinner is a good average. And that's probably what we generally give. And then if service is above and beyond, then it might be that 20. If it was quick in or out, or just service was just okay, then it might be lower. Okay, what I just went through are the main reasons that you would tip throughout your day. And then there's going to be some special situations, right? So one would be the spa. If you get a service at the spa, ask if there is gratuity included in that. A lot of times there truly is a 12%, 10% gratuity included. And in that case, we will tip a little bit more to get that tip to 20, 25%. Now, hydrotherapy is often included in club level rooms. So if you take advantage of that, you would want to plan for a tip for that attendant, if there is an attendant, because sometimes they're self-guided. In that case, you don't need a tip. But I would say, $5 to $10 if they just, they're timing things for you, they're showing you where to go. And then I've been, blown away by some of our hydrotherapy experiences where we've had like maybe a neck, shoulder, and scalp massage at the end. So, they've taken our wet suits if we have a massage afterward, and they do the spinny thing to dry them out. So, all of those things considered, it may be a $10 tip. So again, I'm sorry I keep saying the same thing, but it really does come back to so many different scenarios. Now, some resorts will have a building concierge who you may use on a regular basis or never even see at all. But if you do use their services, if they assist you with maybe booking an experience or they help you out in some way, you're just going to want to tip based on that service. Now, in addition, some club levels at resorts often will have a butler included. And generally, this is a touch point person. This is someone who may make dinner reservations for you. They are your go-to person if you need something in the room or something's wrong in the room. Generally, you will have contact with them through WhatsApp. They will send you the list of activities each day, and they're just there if you need anything. And then on top of that, they may do some special things for you. Maybe they leave you something nice in the room, or they surprise you with a little gesture. And so what you tip them really depends not only on what they do for you, but also your ask. I think a good per day is $15 to $20 per day for your butler. And then, if you never see them, if they never contact you, then obviously you're not going to tip them. And then if they are going above and beyond for you every single day, you may decide to tip a little bit more. But if you're trying to make a plan of what to take, I would go with $20 per day if you have a butler. Now, if you spend a lot of time with the entertainment staff, you may choose to tip them. There have been trips where we feel like we're hanging out with them, doing different things like every single day, and they have gone above and beyond for us, and we have certainly wanted to show our gratitude. Other times we may not do anything. So there's no one to tip in that case. But the entertainment crew can be someone to consider tipping. And also, you can really feel free to tip anybody around the resort that you want to. Anyone who is, making your trip great, landscapers, pool, the people who are cleaning and tending to the pools, the security, whoever. Like if somebody that you have a really good interaction with or somebody that helps you out in some way, you certainly can feel free to tip them if you choose to. All right, in some of my footage, you may have seen like a little candy treat bag. So in addition to taking some full-size candies, I also take little candy treat bags. And this idea comes from Brittany with Memories and Mojitos. Hopefully you already follow them, but if you don't, go do that after you watch this video. They make vlogs of all of their trips. They are so much fun. So you'll definitely want to check them out. And you'll also be able to get more details about those candy treat bags in her videos. And then also in my miscellaneous video that I have linked below, I go in a little more detail there as well. Now, in addition, for housekeeping, it just depends on the trip. Sometimes if I'm carrying on only, there's just not room. But if I'm checking a bag, I like to take like face masks or maybe little hand lotions or sanitizers, lip balms, and then I just leave a little note, or I just write on, like if it's a face mask, I might write our name and room number right on there. Just thank you. Just something that's in addition to the tip. I don't include it as part of the tip. But I just enjoy doing that. Certainly not necessary, but if you just want to do something a little bit extra, that's one way. Me by now, if you watch my videos, I can be a little extra, and that's just something that I really enjoy doing. Now, I do also take like actual note cards with us. I mean, I'll usually throw like 5 or 6 in my bag each time. If we have a butler, that's usually how I give them their tip. That way I can write a little note to them also. And then, you know, if there's someone who goes just really above and beyond, on our trip to Coral, Christian from the entertainment team was amazing. That whole team was. So I wanted to leave something for them. And, you know, we were leaving kind of early in the morning. I knew I might not get to see him. So I just left that with the supervisor when we were checking out. And you certainly can do this, you know, for anyone. Oh my gosh, we wanted to leave so-and-so a little extra tip. She was so amazing all week and we didn't see her yesterday. Put her name, her department in, you know, your tip in a note card. And it's just nice. Sometimes you want to give some words of appreciation as well. Like, who doesn't like their day made with an extra thank you or a way that, you know, you stood out to somebody? So it's just a nice way to show someone or tell someone that they made your trip great. Okay, so how do I budget for tips? Well, I kind of have my per day average in my head, and I think about that when I'm deciding on a room, when I'm deciding on a resort. I just naturally add that amount in when I'm thinking about the total that we're going to spend on the vacation. And so, yeah, that might mean I book one room under what my overall budget is, because I know that tipping is going to play a part in my vacation. Now, another thing to consider, if, you know, is maybe you don't do a preferred club situation. A lot of times those have extra things added, like the butler, like certain experiences that you might tip extra for. So, you know, maybe you don't do club because you know that that would increase the amount of tipping that you would need to take with you. So it's just something to consider. So as far as organizing, you will need to figure out how many 1s, 5s, 10s, and 20s that you are going to need, so that when you go to the bank, don't forget to do that early, you may need to exchange some bills out, you know which denominations that you want to ask for. Now, I learned real quick many years ago on our first all-inclusive trips that I just had like this pile of 1s and 5s and 10s, and like I was so afraid that I was going to run out of money. So that was a very clear lesson on that first trip, that I needed to be more organized. So now when I go get money from the bank, I ask for those extra envelopes, you know, like the perfect size envelopes. I just ask for extras, and then I label those with each day of our stay. And then also I will do an extra envelope for the spa, for butlers. Sometimes I have a separate envelope for some extra, you know, I like to take a little bit of extra money just in case. Also, you know, maybe I'll have an envelope for something like, oh, I know we're going to do a tequila tasting. So I know that our room includes a special wine pairing dinner. So I'm going to want to tip extra for that. So I may have an extra envelope just for those specific scenarios as well. Again, it just depends on which resort we're going to, what's on offer, you know, and what I might need for tipping money if we're doing anything special. Okay, so what do I put in every envelope? In my day-to-day envelopes, on my full day envelopes, because arrival day and departure day is going to look a little bit different. But on my full days, I put 41s, 5s, and 110. So that's an average of $75 per day. Is that exactly what we spend each day? No. Sometimes we might be like super, super chill, and I spend, you know, half of it. And then other days I have just a few ones left over. And then some other days I might be reaching back to, you know, an envelope from the day before where we spent a little less because I need more. But it all tends to work out fairly well for me. So based on that range that I gave you throughout this video, having that amount per day has worked well. And again, I do plan separately for the spa, the butler, the experiences, and I do also take a little bit of extra just in case, you never know. So that was a lot of information, but I do really hope that it was helpful for you as you are getting your tipping plan in place. And if it was, please give this video a like, and down in the comments, tell me where you're going. Which resort are you planning for? And also, if you have any additional questions, put those down in the comments as well. And if you're not already subscribed, I would love to have you. I've got a couple resort review videos coming up in the future, and a few more planning videos as well. So thank you again for being here. I appreciate it so much. Safe travels.